has been named Touch.
You got lyrics, you got beats. You looking for tracks? Let me know. www.imvanay.com.
Okay, you guys. Sudimanats, what's up? And today, we've got a pretty good topic. And that is the Xbox One press conference. Now, if you guys don't know what the hell that is, then you need to catch up on your video games. Because that was yesterday, May 21st. And so, what it is Xbox's new console. No, it's not the Xbox 720. It's not the rumored Xbox Infinity. It's the Xbox One now. I just made this video to show you guys my thoughts on this, and right here in the gameplay, just messing with some options. And so, back to my thoughts on the Xbox One. Now, the first thing, there are a lot of problems that they have with this press conference, but the first one that I have in particular is the name. Now, why? Why the hell the Xbox One? Like, you had all these things that you could have called it, but why the Xbox One? And the reason why I complain more about this than anything is mainly because it kind of confuses me. Because when I watch the press conference, and I'm going to watch it again just to make sure I didn't miss anything, but when I watch majority of the press conference, Xbox One made me think of the original Xbox. And it just confused the living crap out of me. Because at some point, you would sit there and you'd be like, oh, Xbox One, okay, and all of a sudden they'd be like, here's the new Xbox One. I was like, oh, they're making a remake of the original system. That makes no goddamn sense. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion on the name, but who cares? I care. That's what matters. So, next thing I want to talk about is the press conference. What do I need to say? It's a bad press conference when you spend an hour long of a press conference talking. You didn't even talk about the games for that 35 minutes. What they did for the first 35 minutes of the hour-long press conference was basically just talk about how the Xbox One is supposed to tie your room together. And in my opinion, I thought the Wii U already did this when I first heard this, but they tried to tweak it, and that's what I have no problem with Microsoft majority of the time. I do believe that they did a lot of wrong stuff, and so, but my problem with this is that you can't spend 35 minutes on a part of the press conference that doesn't even talk about games. I mean, Microsoft, did you forget you were actually making a console? I mean, with the way that they describe things, and we'll just leave it at that. And I mean, we haven't even got to the actual game side. But before we go ahead and get to the game side, let's go ahead and talk about the system. Now, the system's pretty powerful. It's 8 gigs of RAM and the gigahertz and crap. I'm not really that much. I do like computers, but I'm not that much of an expert on them, so excuse me if I don't know a lot about that. But what I've heard is that it's kind of like Windows 8. And if it's anything like Windows 8, then Microsoft screwed themselves over. Because I know even some of you people that have Windows 8, I know that some of you guys are going to be like, wait, but it's not that bad. Well, it's far from great. No offense. But Windows 8 is completely far from great. And so the next thing I really want to talk about is compatibility. The rumors. I think Microsoft, just as Shakedown 2012 said earlier, Microsoft has a lot of balls to come out in public and say everything that the rumors already said. I mean, because they did confirm there is no backwards compatibility, which I just thought was completely freaking ridiculous. That means you're going to have to there's no reason for you to actually keep your Xbox 360 after you get an Xbox One. And the same thing's going to happen to the PS4. As we know, there's no backwards compatibility on there. And so it's just useless trying to keep it. It makes absolutely no sense. But we'll go ahead and leave that up to Microsoft. That's not anything I'm supposed to be worried about. So, next thing I really want to talk about is the actual game. But before we get to those games, we have to talk about something about the game. See, you guys know how you can trade games in at GameStop, or buy them, or rent them off of GameFly? Well, on the Xbox One, that's going to be completely rendered useless. Yeah, useless. Because for what you have to do is, if you take a game over to a friend's house, you have to pay a fee to play it on that console. Or you could bring the entire console. And if you've seen the console, it is gigantic. I mean ginormous. And so, sometimes I just wonder, was this conference just meant for Microsoft to shoot themselves in the foot? But usually, I don't like Microsoft, to tell you the truth, but I usually do not bash them like this. Because whenever they do stuff, it's not normally this bad. And I hate to say it because I completely despise Sony, but Sony had a better press conference than Microsoft. And I think now we can actually get into the games. The games. So the first thing we want to talk about is that they said in the press conference that there are going to be 15 games by launch. And so I was like, okay, that's not a lot. But then again, like the Wii U thing, it wasn't as many if you didn't count the launch window. And they even lied about the launch window, because half of the games in the Wii U lineup weren't even in the launch window, like the Wonderful 101, which I'm still pissed about. And you will not change my mind about that, Nintendo, but that's besides the point. Point is, I think that Microsoft may have some good games coming, I don't know, but mainly, I mean, think about it. 35 minutes of the press conference were actually spent on talking about the system entertainment itself. And so when you actually get to the games, it's just weird, because the games that they showed mainly were EA Sports and Call of Duty. And they did have a couple of new IPs. I think they called it Quantum Theory or something like that. I can't remember. All I know is that it started with Quantum. And I'll try to leave a link in the description to the press conference or something like that. But they said that there are going to be 7 new IPs. And for you guys that don't know what IPs are, they're basically new franchises. So they're going to be 7 new game franchises. And I think that's personally okay. I mean, due to the fact that you are putting out 15 new games, my bad. But then you have to think, of those 8 games, how many of them are the exact same thing that you almost always do? I mean, Halo, my goodness. You thought that they were done. And here's the funny thing, before the press conference even started, you know exactly what I told everybody. I said, once we get to the press conference, we're just going to see Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, which we surprisingly did not see, and Medal of Honor, which is another game we didn't see. So, I mean, even with those 2 games, they could have at least slightly brightened up the press conference, but back to the game. There are going to be 15 games by launch. Especially, one of the things that they really talked about was Call of Duty Ghosts. And here's the problem with Call of Duty Ghosts. The game didn't seem bad. And if I was going to get it on a console, I'd probably get it on 360 or Xbox One. Here's the thing. Why the hell did you spend all that time, if you were going to do a press conference for games? Why the hell did you... Oh my goodness. Okay, now I'm just rewatching the gameplay. I'm sorry. I'm narrating from the timeline. But why the hell would you spend so much time discussing a dog? Yes, for you guys that didn't watch the press conference, majority of this entire Call of Duty Ghosts press conference had to deal with a canine. Like the canine, as in the kill streak, but instead, it walks around with you as like your friend, your protector. And I was like, that's okay. But it's different when you spend almost the entire damn thing talking about the dog. And they also spent things talking about how you're going to be able to see the dirt under people's fingernails or the hair on their arms. I don't care about the hair on their arms. I don't care about the dirt under their fingernails. You want to know why? Because that's not the gameplay. I wonder about the gameplay aspect. And so, I mean, when you bring all of that together, what the hell was the point of even showing Call of Duty Ghosts if you really didn't fix anything? I mean, another thing that they did talk about was how you're able to kind of do like that 007 Battlefield 3 thing where when you see an object, instead of you jumping on the object and then going over like normal Call of Duty, instead you're going to be able to do like that little Battlefield lunge over. Or I may have like a little clip in the corner of the screen just to show you guys what I'm talking about. But, I mean, that probably should have been added. And another thing, you never said anything about lag. That's the one thing you should have said something about. And in this part of the clip, this guy's just sitting here. He went AFK, and so we end up dying later. But I think that's about it for the bad things. And I may end up putting another video out discussing the entire conference. But I don't know. In my opinion, Microsoft just kind of shot themselves in the foot, especially since Sony's stock rose up 10%. Oh god, but this is SudiMoonS, what's up? I'm out. Love you guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.